Hello! This video is all about these, the fanttik NEX L1 and L1 Pro screwdrivers. It's a little bit different to the other videos you might see on it, but I hope you enjoy it. It's an unboxing and a general review, so let's get started. So this is the package that arrived, and we'll unbox that now. First thing I'm going to point out is this, if you just listen for a second. So what you can hear there is some little metallic sort of noises. I'm pretty sure that's just the bits that have fallen out. I did contact fanttik about this, and they said that they were aware of it, and they fixed that in the ones that actually will be sent out if you purchase it. So you shouldn't hear that noise. I'll discuss that later in the video, but we'll just do the unboxing straight away and get it over and done with. I'm guessing, spoiler alert, that the sticker colour is the colour that that it's going to be. It's a guess. That's the L1 Pro, and that's the L1. So they sent me one of each rather than just the Pro. I'm expecting them to be identical, but we'll just open them and find out. Guide about how we'll be looking at that, because that's kind of interesting. It's a little how to use me thing. I'm not going to dwell on it too long. Fridge magnet. Okay. That manual's been chewed a bit, but there's the NEX L1 manual and the NEX L1 Pro manual. We'll look at that a bit later as well. Nothing else in the box. Like that. So here they are. Let's just see what the latch is like. Oh, it's actually open already. So that wasn't actually shut, and that one's open as well. And yeah, as I suspected, the noise is just the bits had fallen out. Just make sure they're all there though. Oh, there's one there for that one. There's one there. And I'll take that out. There's one hiding down there. So there we go. So they've sent me a green one. And the sort of grey one. And they both come with the same USB lead. It's a standard USB to USB-C. There's a little lip on there, which presumably will hold the cable in, but I just find that annoying. It would just be nice to just drop it in the hole, wouldn't it? But anyway, that one appears to be sort of wrapped up slightly better than that one does. Yeah, this one has got a little elastic band on it, and this one has got a metal cable tie. So there's been some little tweaks and things while they've been doing things. So I like to see companies do that, because it means they're being thoughtful. And it also means they're open to change as well, and open to adjusting things and admitting that maybe they've done something that isn't quite as well as it could be. So we'll look at the bits individually, because that's quite an important aspect of this. These are quite loose, and that's why they fell out, so I guess they've adjusted them. But anyway, so that's the actual unboxing. And what we'll do now is we'll sort of compare and contrast, and then you can see whether you want to buy one or not. So let's talk about the bits falling out the box in transit. I've had a little think about it, and I know why that is. And it's not because there's a design fault. It's something that I sort of noticed while we were unboxing. The actual bits do come in very nice little holes that are it's quite loose. So it's a one-handed job. You can take the bit out with one hand. Competing brands have the bits coming in like a rubber block, and that's a two-handed job. You have to pull it out with two hands. So this is actually quite nice because you just need to use one hand to take the bits out. And I've also noticed, and you may have as well, is that on the back of the box there's actually a little pad, and it's got little dents in, because that corresponds to where the bits are. So that actually, they shouldn't have come out in transit. And the reason they did come out in transit is because no one had shut the case. If the case is slid shut, then the lid obviously can't move. And when it's in the box, there is a little bit of room for the lid to move. And depending on how that sort of is, you see, if it's sort of compressed or wriggled, then the lid might lift up high enough for the bit to fall out. And that's obviously what happened with mine. So the way you stop them falling out in transit is to make sure someone's slid the catch. Yeah, so that's that really. Problem solved. So yeah, on to the next bit. So I suppose the next part of the video should involve a whole load of really long wood screws, and then just kind of a random block of wood, and then just film it screwing in and taking them out. There's a couple of problems with that. One is a logistic problem in that I don't have a random block of wood lying around that I can do that with. And two, I think other videos have pretty much got that covered, so I shan't be bothering doing that. But I will discuss why it is not necessarily relevant. If you're going to be screwing in wood screws in a serious sort of way, you're going to have something like this anyway, a much more substantial drill that's heavier, more robust, and can, you know, drive a screw into a wall without even blinking. That isn't, it's not really a fair comparison to bring that into the sort of discussion about this screwdriver. That's like saying, but I want to transfer, you know, I want to move a wardrobe around, but it won't fit in my car. Grr. It's like, you know, you need to buy a truck for that, don't you? So this is the kind of thing that you're going to use for serious wood screwing. This isn't a competitor for that in quite the way that some videos might sort of suggest it is. This is a complementary device. They're not competing with each other. They are in fact friends. So I'm not going to be doing the wood screw thing, and I don't think it's relevant. So let's go on to the next thing. So this part of the video is going to be looking at the bits that you get with it, mainly because that's usually neglected in tool videos. That's because the people that watch tool videos have usually got lots of tools, and so have got huge quantities of these bits just lying around anyway. But if you're looking to get a new tool, because maybe your wrists aren't quite what they used to be, or because you don't fancy the idea of getting repetitive strain injury when you're making a bit of furniture, or just because it's a strength thing, there's all sorts of reasons why you might want to buy a new tool, and it's always nice to see what comes with it, just in case you need to get anything else. So let's see how comprehensive the bits are. The main thing to remember is that what bits come with it tends to be a bit of a suggestion about what they want you to do with the device. So let's see what you get with this. So you get, first of all, you get a T10, a T15, a T20 and a T25. So they're quite big on Torx, with 4 different types of Torx. You get an H3, an H4 and an H5. The H5 is your mainstay of flat pack furniture, by the way. You get a single SL5, which is the flat blade. So that's going to be good for your flat pack furniture as well. You get a single PZ2, so a fairly, random net shiver posi drive bit in. If you're not sure what a posi drive is and how it differs to the next set of bits, then there's something in the description that explains it. The PH noughts 1, 2 and 3, they're the Philips standard cross blade thing. What's interesting is the PH one is a long one. It's not a stubby one, it's a long one. And of course the most conspicuous difference that you might notice is that it comes with a 6mm extension rod. That I really like, because when you've got a device like this, when you put the bit in like that, when you're looking down to put the screw in, you can't see it. Really annoying. So with this extra bit extension rod, when you put the bit in, you've got much better viewing angles. That's really nice, really, really nice. And because Philips is designed so that you've got a little bit of an angle, you get that angle, you get more, you can get at screws better with that. Because sometimes with that, if you just got that, you won't be able to get into certain places. So including the extension rod's very good. I've bought separate extension rods for a lot of my tools, so I've already got a stash of these anyway. But including that with the tool is a really nice idea. Similarly, with the longer bit, that's a nice touch as well, because then you haven't got to get the extension rod out. So that's why they put both in, I don't know. Well, it's obvious, because this is the one you're going to use the most. That's what they think, and then you use the extension rod for the other bits. So yeah, quite like the inclusion of that. What I'm not particularly happy about, if I'm being completely honest, is that it's not magnetic. So if I get that rod out, because that'll help you see it better, and I pop that on the end of there, and I put a bit on like that, and I get my little tray of screws, it's not magnetic, which for me is a bit of a problem, because it's nice when you're building something to be able to put the screw on the end without it just falling off. So I think that's a bit of an oversight. But I do have a little magnetizer that I might be playing with later. So it's not a deal breaker as such, it's just something that I find a bit annoying that I thought I'd point out. So in terms of the screws fitting, they suggest that you can use it for your drone, for your laptop, for your building computers with flat pack furniture. Now obviously the 5mm hex is going to be doing the flat pack furniture, no problem at all. You've got your flat blade for doing that as well, and of course you've got your variety of Philips to fit as well. You don't really see Torx on flat blade, but you might see that on your bike or something. So you've got, I think the range is quite good. Let's just take the smaller one, let's take the PH nought, and let's see if that will fit. This is my little ball laptop screws for experimental purposes. That's quite a nice fit on there, and it doesn't matter which screw. It might seem like a trivial thing to do, but it does matter, because if you kind of undo your laptop, you want to make sure that all the screws are going to work. So that one there, that fits quite well as well. And of course you've got your general PC screws which are going to fit anyway. So for building computers, this would actually be quite good for me, except there is one thing missing. If you're going to build a computer, I'm just going to find it. If you're going to build a computer, then you will need a 5mm hex bolt. because that, well, hex, not bolt, hex socket, because that is what's used to put the motherboard risers in. So yes, you can do general PC stuff with it, but you can't fully assemble it because you haven't got that. That's one of these extension rods I bought, but you haven't got one of those. Again, that's just me nitpicking. Realistically, it's not that important because this isn't sold as a PC repair kit, is it? It's not sold as a PC building kit. You can take your laptop apart and you can do PC maintenance. You can take your hard drive apart, things like that. But what you can't do is actually assemble it from the ground up because you haven't got the bolt. Also, this is a hard drive that I've removed from an HP machine, and that's got a Torx thing on it, and that fits that perfectly. So if you come across weird screws, which some OEM manufacturers have, then that's what the Torx is there. So for PC construction, the only thing it's missing is the 5mm socket, 5mm hex socket. Other than that, you can do it. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, really. Let's move on to the next section of the video. The next section of the video will focus entirely upon the differences between them. So let's just bring them in a little bit closer to each other. So the main difference obviously with these two is that they're different colours. Both the L1 and the L1 Pro are available in Moon Grey, but you can get the L1 in this green colour and a rose red, and you can get the L1 Pro in a blue. So if you want to base your choice entirely upon what colour it is, those are your options, and you know, why not? Other differences that are obvious visually is that the L1 Pro has got a different end on it, and that's because it's got the shark chuck. The shark chuck is rather nifty actually. It locks the bit in, and the only way to release it is to just use the quick release on it. But once it's in, it's in. That's a nice touch. It isn't on the vanilla L1. That's still got a nice grip of the bit, but the bit does come out. It's not firmly locked in like it is with the shark chuck. Again, the shark chuck is quite nifty because when you're building flat pack furniture, a lot of the time some of the screws you get are quite soft metal. So when you're drilling in and screwing them in, the bit can get jammed in the screw, and when you pull the screwdriver away, it leaves the bit behind. That happens quite a lot on the primary competitor to this, because I've got one and it's really annoying when it does that. So the shark chuck obviously would stop that happening, so yes, we like that. Another difference that's worth mentioning is they've got different batteries in. This has a branded Samsung in, this has a battery from wherever. Not really sure how important that is. If you're going to be using it, you know, seriously, then whenever you put it down, you'll probably plug a power lead in anyway. And if you're not using it seriously and you come to do something and it has run out of batteries, you just plug it in and then wait until it's charged and then do the job. So battery life to me is not really that's not really a thing. It's something you can, you know, if you're looking for differences, then that is a difference, but don't care. The other thing is that the L1 is off or on. So it's either spinning or it's not. The L1 Pro has a nifty variable speed. Which is kind of nice. There's a further difference when it comes to spin speed. The L1 spins faster at 320 and the L1 Pro varies between 0 and 220. So the L1 is actually faster, which is very interesting when it comes to the main feature of the screwdrivers, and that is the torque. They've got a torque setting on them. Oh, that's great, because their main competitor doesn't. And a lot of the tool videos sort of mention it, but what they really do is they're referring it to something like this, which obviously is a bit more of a substantial and aggressive product that has the torque on it for when you're doing screws. So if you're doing wood screws, that's what you're going to use. you're not going to use this for wood screws. You're going to use this for pre-threaded screws, or the kind of screws that you get for flat pack furniture. You're not going to do decking with it. So let's get things into perspective a little bit. So having torque on this is actually going to be very good when you're dealing with, well, the drones that they mentioned in advertising. Things like computers, things like drones, things like flat pack furniture especially, because you can easily grind out the screws because they often go into chipboard. So having the torque on there is going to be kind of useful. The L1 has got slightly less torque. It ranges between 1 and 5 Newton meters, and the L1 Pro goes up to 6 Newton meters. So you can do slightly more grrr things with the L1 Pro than you can with the L1. Essentially, the L1 Pro is one louder. So yeah, those are the primary differences. Let's go on to the next section of the video. So the next bit of the video, don't worry, it hasn't broken. We're a bit dark because I'm going to be looking at the lights on it. And I thought a typical job you might want to do is maybe change the bulb in your oven. Other dark places exist, but this seemed like to be the easiest sort of way to compare them without waiting until it was dark. So this is the actual oven light. Which I can't turn on without having the fan going. And this is what the L1 Pro is like. The good thing about the L1 Pro is I can just give the thing a little bit of a squeeze and my light comes on. I haven't got to, and it stays on a bit after I've let go of it. So I haven't got to actually fire it up to make the light come on, which is kind of nice. And you can see how bright it is. Hopefully you can sort of see. GoPros are notoriously bad in low light. And this is the standard L1. That one's a bit, because it's an off and on thing, you have to sort of give it a bit of a for it to actually, for the light to come on. So in that respect, the Pro is actually, and then there we go. They're kind of, it's easier to do it on the Pro. It's easier to put the light on without having to spin it up. But I don't know, I mean, you should be getting a reasonably good view of it. The point is that where the screw's going in, you can see, and it's illuminated all around it, rather than just in one particular spot. So that, calling it a 360-degree LED is it's kind of a bit, yeah, that's kind of interesting. But it does illuminate all the way around where you're putting your screw in, and that I think is quite nice. So basically, if you're going to have a light on the front, you might as well have one that actually works, and this one seems to work. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful to you, and let's go on to the next bit. This section is going to be all about the torque, because that's probably what sets these screwdrivers apart from its main competitors. So let's deal with that now. So when it comes to making a PC, which is what I tend to do, there's a variety of different surfaces that screws get put into. They can be plastic and of course various different thicknesses of metal. So the torque thing might be really good. So let's test it out. So I've got the Pro here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press the button and put it on torque 1, and it's already on reverse direction. So I'm going to take this screw out. It's a fan screw, so behind it is plastic. And of course it falls off because the end isn't magnetic. And then I'm going to reverse the direction. It's still on torque 1, and I'll screw it back in and we'll see where it stops. And it stops there because I'm gripping it and the end's flashing. So that's it. Because it's electronic, it's realised that, you know, that's where, yeah, it stopped itself. And I'm going to take the end of that off and put it on my ratchety screwdriver, and I'll see how tight that is. Now I can tighten that up a bit more by hand, but if I do it any more by hand, I'll destroy the plastic. So that is about the right setting for that. So that's quite pleasing. So let's try it with a different screw. Let's try it with a screw on the power supply. down the bottom here. That's a Torx on this because it's a OEM machine, HP machine. So I'm going to reverse the direction again. It's on torque 1 still, so it might turn off straight away. And then I'll unscrew that. So that's quite nifty. It's done that quite quickly. So I'll change the direction, and we'll put the screw back in, and we'll see where it stops. And it stops there. And you saw it jolted slightly, but so I'm going to get the other screwdriver again, my ratchet one, and we'll see what that's gone in like. I can't tighten that up anymore without destroying it. So I think that is quite nice. It's good that it stops, but it's a bit close to the wire. Let me just put it on torque 2, and we'll take one of these screws out, and we'll just do a little experiment here with this particular one here, which is the one I haven't undone yet. So it comes out, and I'm going to reverse the direction, and this is on torque level 2 now. You can see it's on torque 2, so I'll screw it in, but I won't stop, and we'll see what it does. It stopped. So let's do the same on torque 3. I've reversed it, and we'll take it out. And I'll reverse it again, and we'll put it back in. This is on torque 3 now. That shredded it. So when you're drilling into plastic, torque 3 just, it doesn't stop. It doesn't detect the resistance. It just keeps going and grinds out the thing. So that's kind of nice. I kind of like that. I think torque 1 could do with being a little bit more gentle. It would be nice. It would be nice if it had the gearboxes like you get in some cars, where the first gear is sort of a very high ratio, and then it's not a smooth transition. It's not a linear progression between the gears. Some gears are designed for idling in traffic, and some gears are designed for motorway. So 5th gear is very much designed for cruising at motorway speeds more efficiently. It's not designed for pulling away at lights. So there's all these sort of aspects of gearing that should probably apply to this as well. So the first torque should be really light. So as soon as you put the screw in, it should basically go in far enough so that it's screwed up, but not far enough so that it has any chance of doing damage. So for speed, you want to whiz it in, and then you could finish it off with that for my purposes. So let's try it again, but we'll try it this time with the L1, because the L1 isn't gradual. The L1 is either off or on. So let's see what that's like. That's on 4 at the moment, so I'll switch that down to 1. And it's on takeout. Let's try it with this one down here. That seemed to cut off a bit quicker. I'll change the direction, and we'll put the screw back in. So that seems to be a bit more sensitive, unless it's that particular screw. So I'll put that on 2 now. That seems to have confused it a bit. The 2 on that has just shredded it. So I think when you're dealing with screwing into plastic, you have to be a little bit careful what you're doing, and I'll probably stick with a ratchet for that. But when it comes to flat pack, if you're doing flat pack furniture, I think that torque setting could be really, really useful, because it will stop you from destroying it. But I do think it's a bit too harsh. It needs to have, the first setting needs to be quite light, because what people buy these tools for is to take out the stress work and the sort of wrist work of using sort of one of these things, using a screwdriver basically. So you buy an electric screwdriver because you want to screw screws in, and there might be reasons why that would hurt or not be any fun. if you use a conventional screwdriver. So realistically, it would be nicer if the first level of torque was enough to get the screw in, but not to over tighten it. So you get the speed of putting the screw in without the potential to actually destroy things. Because as we can see from what I've just done there, it's not, it might be a bad example, but it looks to me like it's a bit it's not twitchy. I'm not going to say twitchy. It's a bit, it can be a bit harsh in its detecting of when the screw's at the tightness that corresponds to the torque level it's at. And I haven't gone above 3, so I'm not, you know, the Pro has got 4, 5 and 6, whereas the L1 has only got up to 5, so it's a bit, yeah. I don't use my other, because I've got another one of these electric screwdrivers. I don't use those when I'm making PCs. I use them I sometimes use it for dismantling PCs, but I don't use it for building them, because that hasn't got any torque setting on it at all, and it will just destroy the metal hole that you put the screw into. Whereas with this, the torque is quite nice, but I'm still a bit nervous about using it to build a machine, I'm afraid to say. Flat back furniture, well, I think we'll be okay with that. But when it comes to swilling into plastic or thin metal, I think the torque is a little bit of a problem. So, right, that's the end of that section of the video. I think it's probably time we have a sum up and have a little conclusion, I think. Right, so that's pretty much it. So I've done all the kind of stuff that I wanted to do with them. So now we'll have a bit of a think about a conclusion. First of all, I want to make it quite clear that I was sent these by fanttik. I was contacted out of the blue by a member of the sales team who said, would I like a sample to test and make a video on? And then I looked them up and I thought, you've got 2 models, so I rather cheekily asked them to send me one of each, and to my surprise they agreed. So that's why I've got one of each, just because I asked, basically. And in fairness, that was awfully kind of them, and I am very grateful, and I thank them. I also just wanted to check to make sure that I could say whatever I wanted about them, and they said that I could. And they didn't have any red lines that I couldn't cross, because they had confidence in their product, which was also very, very nice of them. So with that in mind, here's what I think about them. Let's start with the bad points first. The bits not being magnetic is that's a real problem. When I'm building computers, when I'm building anything, I like to be able to just put the screw on the end of the screwdriver and have it stay there, because it's just easier. So the fact they're not magnetic on this is a bit of a problem. I've got a magnetizer, so I might, I'll probably magnetize the bits so that they do, the screws do stick. But not having it do that out of the box is a bit of an issue for me, because dropping screws is a real problem. And if you want to be able to use the device one-handed, for whatever reason, then you're going to use one hand to hold the device, but you don't want to have to use the other hand to hold the screw on the end, because that hand could be used for steadying yourself. It could be used for holding something open or holding. So one-handed operation is only really possible if the screws stick to the bit magnetically. So that's a bit of a problem for me. The other problem is the torque. Now, for sort of more robust activities like flat pack furniture and drilling screws into wood, which I didn't bother with, but for those kind of activities that require that sort of level of grr, then yes, it's going to be really good at that, because you'll be able to screw it in and not have it totally destroy whatever it is you're drilling into. But what I've found with sort of PC assembly and anything that's sort of small and delicate, like a laptop or something like that, is that level 1 torque is a bit too strong for me. I'm a bit nervous of it. And you saw from what I've just done that it'll shred the plastic for a fan for example, and it'll put screws in. Not, I'm going to say too tight because it's a relative thing. It'll put screws in too tight so that when you get the screwdriver out of the way and go in with a manual screwdriver to finish it off, there isn't much left for you to tighten. So the tightening up is done on level 1, where it should actually, ideally, require a bit of finishing off. Because what you're using the electric screwdriver for is you're using it to stop the hassle of actually having to screw the screw in. That repetitive strain injury inducing twisting, that's what you're trying to stop. So if you're building a lot of things in one go, or just because you've got general issues with your wrists, then having it do that sort of, the grunt work sort of thing is what you buy an electric screwdriver for. And that's why I tend to use electric screwdrivers for dismantling computers, but I don't use them for building them. I prefer a manual ratcheted screwdriver for that with a magnetic bit. So yeah, so those are the things I don't like about it, really, and there's a bit of things that I do like mixed in with that. But I think for flat pack furniture and that kind of thing, it would be really, really good if you were gonna do change the light bulb in your cooker. I think it would be good at that. So if you've got sort of quite robust assembly jobs to do that aren't, you're not laying down 20 square meters of thick wooden decking, then this product fits in quite nicely into that section. So I don't think it's necessarily a kitchen drawer kind of tool, because I think it's better than that. I think that's a bit unfair to call it a kitchen drawer kind of tool, but it's got that sort of air about it in terms of the jobs that it's expected to do. So I wouldn't use this to construct a PC with, partly because the bits aren't magnetic, partly because the level 1 torque is too powerful for my liking, and also because it doesn't include all the bits. It doesn't have the 5mm hex bolt, hex socket. So you can't build a PC with it as it comes out of the box, because it hasn't got all, I'm being a bit nitpicky to be fair, but it hasn't got all the bits that you need to do that. But if you're doing flat pack, yeah, brilliant. I will use it for flat pack. The next flat pack thing I make, I will use it, mainly because the competitor to this that I currently use, that is in one of my previous videos, that is a nightmare for flat pack. That doesn't have torque, and I regularly shred bits of it when the screws go into the wood and they just keep turning and turning and turning because it's just shredded it. I also regularly swear a lot because the bit comes off when I pull the screwdriver away because the screws are soft and the bits got stuck in the screw. That obviously won't happen with this. So for flat pack furniture, absolutely, I'm going to be using this, but not for building PCs. I'll take them apart with it. I wouldn't put it anywhere near a laptop. I've got a precision set of screwdrivers for that anyway, and I tend to take my time over that in a sort of a cathartic sort of Zen type way when I'm taking them apart. But yeah, so that's kind of what I think about it. So I like it, and I will actually use it. I am going to use it. I'm not just going to throw it in the bin. But I don't. Yeah, I've got reservations for certain aspects of it. So yes, it's a thumbs up if you're going to be flat packing. If you want to use it for PC maintenance, I don't think it's appropriate, except for the dismantling. As a device, I think it's quite innovative. I think there's a lot of thought gone into it. The bit selection is quite interesting. The fact you get the extension rod and the longer PH1, I think is it the PH1? You get the longer bit. I think that's kind of nice. I think the light going all the way around is brilliant, because the light on the other one I've got is absolutely hopeless, and you get shadows and you can't see what you're doing. So I think that's great. So there are a lot of refinements over the main competitor to this, but yeah, there's two things: non-magnetic bits and torque level 1 being too harsh. That, I think, is all that's wrong with it. If you've got any comments, then stick them in the comments. Liking and subscribing is appreciated. If you think this video has helped you and you want to buy me a coffee, then I like coffee. You can use the Ko-fi link. As I say, I didn't receive any money from fanttik to do this, but they did send me these for nothing. They did allow me to send what I liked, which is kind of what I was going to do anyway. And it is a nice little tool with the reservations that I've mentioned. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching.